Perfect way to start off today's episode.
Only the all-time watchers will know that one.
Here we
I've never been more annoyed with you in my life, I think, when you did that.
Yeah.
It was a good moment, though.
That's what it is.
It was a good moment.
But why did it annoy you? Because why? There's nothing about that that's annoying to me.
I mean, it's just, you know what you kind of are sometimes? You're a mood killer. Somebody comes in with a mood, like that day where I'm like, here we are again, and you went you changed the mood, and it killed the mood. It totally killed my mood.
I think I do that with like conversations. Like I see where I do that with conversations. Like I make it way too serious and then it's not fun anymore for anybody. So I could see if that was one of those moments.
It was funny
To
though.
me, I'm like, I'm lifting it up. I'm matching where you were at. The fact that if you think you're ever here, no.
I don't see how you're lifting it up when you literally went soft and quiet with it.
Because it's like an uplifting tone.
That is not a lifting tone. That is a serial killer tone. That is a putting somebody to sleep tone.
That's the kind of tone I sing to the kids all the time.
Yeah, and it's freaky.
Meet me at the waiting.
I hate it so much. I hear you do it all the time. I'm like, this is what's in like scary movies.
It definitely is. It is a scary movie chant per se, but it is also the tone at which kids can match, like, and they remember the rhythm. Listening to all these like nursery rhymes or preschool education songs, like they all sound the same but just with different words, and they're bad.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I know that there's part of that where kids hear those tones better and they can like recognize patterns and melodies within only those tones of music. But
yeah,
there's also, can you make it a little cooler?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you're ever going to make kids' songs cool, but
Because there's some where like the parents will know it or the kids will know it before I play it, which means like they're playing these songs at home. So it's like, wow, you're listening to this all the time. Like there's one where it's called Sleeping Bunnies, and it like starts to go like soft and it's like a twinkly kind of sound, and it's talking about like how they're sleeping and you can't, like they aren't moving, they're being still and they're supposed to just like lay on the ground, and I turn the lights off and then it says, no bunnies, wake up, and then it just repeats, hop like a bunny, hop hop hop, hop like a bunny, hop hop hop, and now bunnies, time to go back to sleep, and then they go back to sleep, and it is just that on a loop for the whole song, and that's like one of their favorite ones.
That's what I think drives pretty much everybody nuts with kids is they will just repeat the same thing over and over and like not get bored with it. That drives me crazy.
You know what's interesting with my classes lately though that I've been experiencing more than any other time is I've been using props with almost every song that we do. Or if we're gonna do a sing-along song, I make sure that we have a prop. So whether we have like like tambourines or maracas, or we have scarves, that after every song, you would think like, oh, they have something fun. They put it away and they want to put it away after each song, because almost like they're connecting. Oh, this was the song that we do the tambourines, so now we don't use the tambourines anymore. So it's like they immediately the music stops and they go and put it away without me even saying anything.
Huh. Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Because you would think like, oh, wouldn't you would just like want to keep using these? And they're like, after the song, they're like, well, no, because we did it with that song.
Yeah,
it doesn't go with the song.
Oh, that's funny how like systematic they are.
It's pretty good.
You know what I think? You don't have it today, do you?
Me?
No. Just come right out with it. You do not have
Uh,
it today.
well, I think I'm trying to. How do I figure out how to have it without being loud? I'm trying to be talking to the mic and be not yell so that you can't hear me on your mic. And I'm noticing a lot of my energy stems from my volume.
Yeah, clearly.
So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fall asleep because I have to talk like this.
Oh man. Yeah, 'cause these first 5 minutes have been lackluster. I tell you what. You're usually excited about stuff.
I do. I feel like I'm falling asleep while I'm talking. Like I got tired since we started talking.
And this is supposed to be the fun, unique car episode. The road trip episode. You gotta pizzazz it up.
I mean, I've already sang 3 times, so that's
Yeah, but your songs were
pretty.
meet me in a circle, please and
No, this is a different one. One little finger, one little finger, one little finger.
freak.
tap,
You're
tap.
creepy.
I didn't make that one up though. That was a part of something else. Put your finger up, whoop. Put your finger down, whoop.
Yeah, we're done with those. We can be done with those. You know what I want to say? Illinois, figure it out. You know? Your roads suck. Your people suck.
You know what I did find it? What I found interesting though, and it was the same thing in. Where was it? What was the other better road? Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Is they have the lighter color cement. Weren't you were the one that was telling me about that, right?
Yes.
That's something for the global warming purpose.
Potential-
That was
Potential
potential could be
Yes.
a solve of it.
help, not
But
a
they're
solve.
they're old. They're old roads.
Yeah, they're just old. Yeah, like having things white roads, white roofs. They help bounce the light and the heat back up, like back up out of the atmosphere. So,
I do at least like how green it is.
well, I mean,
It's very
like,
lush.
who cares? I mean, it's
It
like
is. It's
your
more the
roads are
yeah.
so bad, it's crazy. The people that drive here, it's like they all learned how to drive on tractors. It's like
They
nobody
probably did.
nobody uses a blinker. Nobody even realizes that there's anybody else on the road. They just stay in the left lane going slower than the speed limit. I mean, it's crazy. And I know it's the classic Wisconsin thing to complain about Illinois people, but stop having something to be able to complain about. It's like, I love you guys, but you suck. You're the worst.
Yeah. Nashville was bad as well. Just going through, it was like the kind of reminded me of Texas. Like it seemed like the infrastructure of the roads are not set up for more than 100 people.
Yeah, Nashville's rough. There's too many people there. The roads are junk, and they're not great drivers either.
Yeah. But as soon as I got off onto one of the exits where it was a little bit not in the city, no one was there. So it's like just like Texas, that you're using one
Yeah,
main
highway
stretch
system.
and everyone's on that road,
Yeah.
but it's not designed. It wasn't previously designed for that many people.
Also with Illinois, your gas is too expensive.
Well, yeah, everyone knows. That's always been that way, though.
I mean, it's just the worst state, huh? They have Chicago, and they think they're the best. And I feel bad because we're in so much farmland and all these great farmers, but your whole state sucks. It's the worst.
Yeah, I don't really know if there's anything else besides Chicago, which is so weird. It's like this is in the same state as
Oh,
Chicago.
it's crazy.
Where we're at right now, that is in the same state.
And that's the only thing that Illinois people can claim is Chicago. That's all they got.
Pretty good.
What? Chicago's not even that great. And then you only have one thing.
Yeah.
Your roads suck, you suck at driving, and you have Chicago. Wow. Congratulations. Like, name one other good thing.
Garrett's popcorn.
Garrett's popcorn is your good thing? I mean,
I would also say that's probably connected to Chicago.
that's rough.
But does it have to be? Well, but that's kind of like connected to the city.
Well, and they think they're so cool because they legalize weed too. You're not cool.
It's like the cool sibling of the family that's like goes a little rogue.
Well, they
It's
kind
like
of
the
do.
Midwest is like, we're a little different.
It's yes, but all of their values are junk.
I wonder if Chicago is another one of those places, another city where you're getting a mix of people coming from different areas. Do you think it's one of those cities that people come to live?
No. No.
You think that people just grew up there
Yeah.
and that's where they're from?
Yeah. Obviously there's some that always happens, but I don't think it's this like big commuter place like LA or New York is.
Or Austin even.
There's going to be some, but well, we know a lot of Illinois people too. It's like I like you guys, but jeez. This is rough. This is rough.
Yeah.
I mean, we need a new suspension after this frickin' drive. Because of Illinois. It's ridiculous.
You trying to sleep, and I am hitting every bump on the road, and I'm like, he is going to wake up so angry at me, thinking like I'm just not paying attention enough. And I tried going on both sides, like both lanes.
It's
It
the same.
was so bad. And I'm not going to swerve around and try to avoid them because they was just filling up the whole.
Yeah, and there's
frickin' thing.
400 other cars.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right though. Illinois is the one sibling that does the little bit of rogue thing, but it just sucks. You have bad roads, bad drivers, your gas is too much. You charge more for things that doesn't make sense. And then you always go up to Wisconsin and frickin' populate our area. Illinois.
That's what we could start Sophia's podcast out with.
It's crazy. Yes, that is 100%.
So,
I'm going to play gotcha
defend your-
journalism.
Defend your state. Go.
Defend your state. Why do you come infiltrate the beautiful state of Wisconsin?
We have a lot of guests coming up. How do you feel about that?
That was the hardest pivot you have had in the history of this podcast.
I don't think so.
I'm in the middle of a sentence and you're just like, we're having guests come on. What do you think about
Well,
that?
because I said Sophia, and then I'm like, oh, wait, we have a lot of people that are going to be new
My favorite color is
faces.
blue.
New faces to the screen.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be fun.
Okay, again, I'm going to do a hard pivot back, but let's
Well,
go back
nobody
to
knows that that's actually what we're doing, too, is like we're on our way to Wisconsin. We're just trashing Illinois for no reason in a car.
I mean, at least you could see a little bit from the windows.
I mean, how great is Chattanooga, though?
It doesn't get me as much as you like it. I get the Tennessee appeal
I
of
just like
the
Chattanooga.
mountains and the it's a different kind of nature. But Chattanooga, when we drive through it, it's just kind of like, oh, this is. I don't know how to describe it. Like, it reminds me when someone talks about living in a coal mine state.
Yeah,
That's what I picture. Like, everything is just kind of
it's mountain people.
burnt.
Burn?
It has soot on it from decades. It's
What?
like partially. Yeah, it's partially always broken.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it seems like there's a lot of chemical residue.
Partially always broken.
Chemical residue,
Illinois'
in the soil
slogan.
there.
Yeah, I don't see that at all, but all right.
Like, I think of Tennessee in the same way that people talk about Virginia. where it's like it's so pretty, but there's a lot of weird like health ailments with the people there because there's so much like history with
Coal
what
mining.
they've
Yeah, I guess
But
so.
yeah, I don't get the same with that. But I do think it's pretty. I definitely can see why people live there.
Yeah, it's cool. Okay. We're picking up. We're starting to roll a little bit. You're starting to come together. What else do you feel like you need to really open up
Hmm.
besides 10 minutes of silence?
I had okay, so this is gonna appeal to nobody, but I've been teaching a lot, so I think it's the only content and information I have to bring to the table. But for my question of the day yesterday, I did what is something that you like to eat. First of all, one girl, so it was what's your name and then what's something that you like to eat? And one girl, she says, I don't know. And I go, you don't know your name? And she just goes, do you know?
Oh my
And I go, no, I don't. And I was like, okay, well, what do you like to eat? And she lights up. She goes, strawberries. Of course, not saying it correctly, but strawberries and and pineapple. And she goes, and she points. She goes, and I really like mangoes. So strawberries, pineapple, and I really like mangoes. And I was like, and again, you want to take another stab at your name? And she just again does the, I don't know. 2-year-old doesn't know her name. Then
Priorities.
I had another that I asked their age instead of their name. And one girl last week she said 103. So hilarious. Then this week she like didn't say anything, so I said, "Are you 3?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Or are you 4?" She's like, "Yeah." I was like, "You're 3?" "Yeah." 4? "Yeah." 5. She just said yeah to every age. I'm like, I don't know if you're being silly and don't understand the question, or you are master manipulating the situation, and it's very funny. Like you are like this is a bit. A 3-year-old being like, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
say yes to every age.
Yeah. Could be.
That was pretty good.
All right. This is a bad podcast.
Is it?
This is very, very bad. I suppose that happens. That's what happens when both of us get a combined of 2 hours of sleep and try to do a podcast in a car.
Do you feel like we need to start over?
I think this is gonna be a train wreck, regardless. So let's just ride the train.
Going with it.
Just ride the train.
Okay. Today, it's about music. I am very curious to hear what you have learned with this because you are not a huge music guy. But typically you come around to something when you have like a purpose or a benefit, there's a benefit that you can understand.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well,
That
and I think, we kind of previewed it on the last one of wanting to talk about the benefits of music and listening to music or whatever. And I had just started to like kind of be like, I should really try to figure out or see like there's clear and obvious benefits to it just from visually being able to see and watch how people enjoy it and all that kind of stuff that it's just not something that I ever really got into or saw value in. So I just started to kind of go like, okay, let's maybe try to see what it's about. And I think, like you said, what helps me is going into like, where's the actual evidence-based stuff of this is what it helps and this is what it's good for. And I don't know, I'm just not much of a like, well, it just like feels good, so do it. It's like whatever. I'm not. I'll choose something else that I know has the evidence-based stuff to be able to follow. So it was kind of interesting to like look up and read stuff and listen to people talk about it of just like what actual things are, and then especially with kids too, like the the help and the growth that it has for kids. It's like okay, yeah, I really have to get into this now because like it seems like it could be such a tool for kids.
Right. Right. Well, and it's actually kind of crazy to me how much it's studied.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't think that, I don't know, for how many subjects aren't studied, you wouldn't think that music on development and our brain health, our heart health, like all the different avenues of studies but still revolving on music, like that people would take the time and the financing
Yeah.
to care about it. But I think on the opposite scale for me, I always have liked music and listening to music, and it's like part of, I guess, like a. I guess I grew up listening to it all the time. We always had it on in the car. We always had it on in the house. Me and Kara were always like singing and dancing and making up songs, and I like it that to see it's farther or it's deeper than just a hobby or something that you enjoy, that there's a brain benefit and a heart benefit to it and an emotional boosting benefit, that it can be almost like a tool of your wellness, not
Yeah.
just something for enjoyment, which isn't bad to just have something for enjoyment, but I think it's allowed me to implement it into my daily stuff without it seeming like, oh, you're just taking a break and listening to music.
Right. Well, and that's what I was gonna say is I feel like there's sometimes that guilt of like, you enjoy music, and I'm like speaking for a lot of people where take music or take anything where it's I just know I enjoy this thing and I want to take time to enjoy it, but then you start to feel that guilt of like, oh, I should be doing something productive or more helpful or something for my health or whatever. And I think that's where it's nice to learn and know about some of this stuff that actually ends up having kind of this like health benefit in a way, maybe more mental health benefit, but something that is for enjoyment, but it actually ends up benefiting your life in a really positive way because of the mechanisms that are happening inside your brain and with your emotions and all that kind of stuff. So it's like it almost goes from a guilt feeling thing to like, no, this is actually helping me and this is actually for something positive that
Mm-hmm.
now I don't have the guilt wrapped around it.
Well, because I was seeing that. Oh, that's cool, Jeep. Um, Listening to music and actually actively listening to it, not just having it on in the background, but taking the time to like be present with it. So whether like you're in the car, that's when I can think of when I'm driving to teach, I'll have music on the whole time and actually listen to it. That from like 10 to 30 minutes, if you can do that daily, it will help your heart health, and it helps your heart health through your breathing. And it's like
Oh, that's weird.
unconscious. So it it is studied to show that it increases it reduces your resting heart rate. So it reduces your resting heart rate, which is just overall, so not just like better heart health, but more your strength of your heart and when it is functioning. And then it increases your heart rate variability, which is the pumping mechanism and the push and pull, and that's also connected to your nervous system, so it helps you be able to regulate better and almost like strengthen your ability to adjust into your parasympathetic, so your relaxed state. And it does that because of how you breathe unconsciously while you're listening to music. Like your body, and this is how it does it, which is even freakier. So the reason that your body can get affected by music, even emotionally, but then on a physical sense of your breathing and then your heart, is you hear it through obviously your auditory system, but then in order for your brain to make the connections of what all the tones of the melodies are, it fires certain neurotransmitters to match the tones of the music. So it's basically like you're hearing it, but then your body is releasing the appropriate neurotransmitters and chemical reactions and hormones, so that it's almost like playing in your body as well. So then also when you're listening to it, like I said, consciously or unconsciously, you start to like hold your breath when the music is ramping up. And then when it goes out or like it releases the tension of the song, that's when you'll start to breathe regularly again, or you might breathe a little bit more shallow because you're listening to the softer part of the music, that you're almost doing like a mini breath work while you're listening to the music. And
Yeah.
it's not, it's like so unconscious, but
It's there. It's happening.
yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, and I think something that you touch on of like the heart rate stuff and it bringing your heart rate down, and I guess for people that maybe don't know about that, like why it's important to have a slower heart rate. It typically shows the strength in your heart of being able to push the blood with less beats to the designated areas. So then there's actually less stress on your heart and the body with that, to where if you have a high heart rate, a high resting heart rate, your heart is constantly pumping and it's not strong enough to get the blood out there, so it has to pump more, to where anything that works more than something else typically ends up, failing long term, quicker. It's like it's important to have a lower heart rate and a strong heart to be able to do that, so that you can have the longevity in your heart. Because if you have an overworked heart, that's where the stuff is going to end up not being great. I just feel like some people hear like, okay, lower resting heart rate or lower heart rate, like why does that even matter?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, it's doing less work. It's not beating as much, but then it's also strong enough to get the blood where it needs to go. And that's really kind of why you have a high heart rate or a low heart rate. Is how efficient is it at pumping the blood to the rest of your system?
Which, and then you think about its connection to the nervous system, your ability to pop into fight or flight with a little bit more self action. Like, it's not just your body's reaction to things, but you are intentionally able to adjust it and have the strength and the ability to adjust that. To me, that's what a lot of us struggle with now, and what a lot of kids struggle with now, is the ability to pay attention for long spans, the ability to feel anxious and then bring yourself back down, to be able to self-regulate, to feel certain emotions, and then being able to understand, okay, well, how can I get out of this state of mind, and then to be able to take action on that and appropriate action on that. All of that comes from you being able to regulate your nervous system enough to be able to do all that. It's like a kid that's throwing a tantrum. They have to get back to normal before you can offer any corrections. Otherwise, like, they are just in a spiral mode, to where even as adults, we're in that spiral mode. We just don't go on the floor and kick and
we don't
scream.
show it as a tantrum. Well, some do, but
it's like our bodies are still having that same reaction that 2-year-old is having. That, to me, is like, this is such an easy way then to practice, not practice that skill, but like strengthen the muscle that helps with that. And that's one thing too with and this is what I learned also with doing the baby program, and why certain music works with what is music, and certain tones of the music connect to your basal ganglia and your cerebellum, and which is like that little, it like looks like the mini brain in the back of your brain. If you like see a picture of a brain from the side, it's like, it looks like a little mini brain in the back. That both of those are pretty much just in control for where you take action and where you don't take action on things. So I talk about it, the basal ganglia, as far as habit creation, and you understand patterns and where to keep doing them over and over again because you're getting a reward system or you're not, or is this something that when I hear this song, I get the tambourines out, that kind of stuff. Those are parts of the brain that helps with that. So then again, as adults, being able to have, again, that awareness of, my emotions are feeling this. Am I going to respond by yelling and freaking out at people? Or am I going to respond by having a conversation or taking a second and breathing before I approach that situation or that person? that is all controlled by those parts of your brain, that music and listening to music helps strengthen those areas and almost like keeps them firing in an appropriate way.
Yeah, the connectivity to them, like they don't become stagnant and not used. That's something that I thought was interesting, that like listening to music and playing music, it activates almost all of the brain, which it just
Yeah.
doesn't seem like there's a lot of things that do that. And that was kind of the first thing that I was like, okay, this is maybe where I need to start doing more of the music thing, because there's so few things that do that for the brain.
Mhm.
And now when you have the entire brain activated, or almost the entire brain, there's just there's certain things that are getting connected and pieced together. And like I heard Huberman say something about like being sad and then listening to sad music can help you cope with the sadness. And that's something that has been studied and looked into of, does this help? Like the idea of, do you need to sit and sulk in it, or do you need to like change your emotions and get rid of it? And that the study actually showed that being like listening to music, but listening to music, sadder music or whatever, would help with those emotions.
Basically, like the processing of those emotions.
Yeah.
Almost like working through it.
Right. And I think that's where it's hard, like, for us, because we don't know the specifics and all of the details about the brain and how it works and all this kind of stuff. But when you hear things like it being fully activated, listening to music and playing music, and there's this connection between like the auditory system of you hearing it, but then also maybe you're dancing, or maybe you're the one playing it, so you have the motor skills with it, that connection between the auditory and the motion, like that's creating connections. And then you take that to the kid level, and it's just like
Well, and because
even crazier of how much more important it is for kids to do it, because you're just constantly working the brain in this healthy, positive way to create these connections and create this like strength that it goes into just being able to have communication and talk to people, or be able to deal with emotions and stuff. And like music is helping all of that. That just is never been taught and told to me. So then when I'm reading it and hearing it, I'm like, okay, how much of a tool could this would have been in my life, or could be in my life, and not really even knowing it. It's that unconscious thing that could be just like constantly like
it's like a workout for your brain.
yeah,
almost.
just like constantly healthifying my brain, yoga for my brain.
Well, and that's what's cool when learning all the different parts of the brain that get activated and that have been studied to why they get activated. That's where I think this benefit to development comes in, because it's like just hearing music, no matter what it is, no matter what tones, it activates your frontal lobe. So it's like your frontal lobe, that's everything of a decision making, of being able to like kind of test out the waters of your reality of, is this something that I should say, yes or no? Is this how I should act, yes or no? Is this a bad idea? Basically the cause and effect of your actions. That, okay, so you take that as a kid. It's like, so they're being able to develop the almost brain muscles before they actually have the tangibles of what that means. And then the ability to have the cerebellum turn on, the basal ganglia turn on, I think it's called the corpus callosum, but it's because you're also listening to music where it has different tones that are going to basically send a wave through your brain. You're automatically activating your left side and your right side of your brain. And that connectivity between the two is where like the more advanced fun, I guess, benefits of it, of like being able to pick up language a little bit easier, being able to understand social skills a little bit easier, your cause and effect in your actions, your ability to understand benefits and rewards to your actions. All of that is the being able to connection of the left and right side. That it's awesome for kids, but I think even as adults, like our brain is neuroplastic, so it's like we can still keep tinkering with it. It's just like, oh my gosh, if you can start that as a kid.
Right. Well, and I think that was the term or the thing I was looking for was like the brain health of it, of how much music helps with brain health. Like you
Mhm.
were saying, the learning languages or communication or problem solving, solving emotional issues, talking with people and friends about emotional stuff, or, you're having a big financial decision you're having to figure out. And it's like all of these things come back to just general brain health and like, how does your brain fire? How does it work? What are you thinking of? What are the problems that come up that you're constantly in a loop with and you're trying to figure out? And we're always trying to seek ways to like, how do I have better brain health? Meditation or doing yoga or eating the right foods and all this kind of stuff. And it's like music is just another one of those things that will positively impact brain health that like I don't ever use it. So it's like, oh, what could I be missing with that? It's like, will this make me more creative? Will this make me kind of connect two dots together that I've never really thought of or been able to before, and think about things from a different point of view or angle, just because all of these times now I'm listening to music and my entire brain is activated. The left and right hemisphere are being able to be connected and to like do stuff. Like this stuff is happening all the time. It's like what they talk about with sleep too. Like so much of your problem solving and also memory is happening when you sleep. You're
Yes.
drawing those pathways and those patterns that it's like this to me is kind of the same thing. The music thing, it's like it's happening on such a subconscious level that you don't really even notice it or realize it. But I bet if you cut to 6 to 12 months later, like you're probably going to be a happier, more capable, maybe feel better about your decision making, all of that kind of stuff. And it's like all you had to do is listen to music a little bit.
Well, and that's another study too that is so crazy is how much. Like, okay, two ways with this, but like how music imprints memories on our cellular level. Because again, going into like how we hear it, but then our brain, the neurons are firing in a specific pattern, which is then releasing hormones in a specific way. That's how like you can have nostalgia about a song, or you hear a song and you think of a certain age, or you think of a memory that you had, or wherever you maybe heard that song first, or it was like, oh, that was the summer that song was really popular that we played the whole time in the car or whatever.
Yeah.
That it's not just, oh, you have a memory of that. It's the music was imprinted on your body, and then whatever visual and other senses, what you picked up with your other senses, is also imprinted within that. So that's why there's also the connection to it increasing intelligence, is because it's a mini practice per se of like a photographic memory,
Oh, sure.
because
Yeah.
like it's embedded into your cells versus just you having to recollect based off of one sensory of you read something or you heard something,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I think is wild. But that's also something that I think is cool with having kids be surrounded by it, is the culture aspect of it, and being able to expose them to different types of people and histories, and like even in the US right now, like where certain music came from and evolved, and like what other subsects of culture were developed because of that music. Like, well, this was created here and now fashion is like that there, and that's why this,
Yeah.
this is why their learning style is, this is why they cook this way, because all of it is kind of interconnected. And I think what they think going back in time was that music was developed and used as a communication skill before actual vocabulary. So like it's so much more deeply rooted in our like connectivity with each other
Sure.
is
Than
with
just
music
language.
versus talking, because we all have different languages now, but we can still we can still hear the same thing, and
Yeah.
it'll still express certain emotions in us.
Right. You can get a sense or a vibe of what this music is trying to portray.
Mhm.
Sad, happy, angry, all that kind of stuff. That's
Well-
what I'm curious too about the music, like about genres of music, or even just like positive reinforcement music versus like sad or violent music. You know, like what the differences in also the message that's being put across, like what that has on brain health. You know, like the if something sad happens and you listen to sad music and it can help you process it, but it's like that's where I wonder, is there a place where like these violent songs have, it's like, is there positivity in that really at all? Like, I don't know.
Well, at least from what I learned with the types of songs, is it's so much it's not about the actual lyrics. And that's why, again, I think it goes back even to
Before we could communicate
before
with
we
each
could
other.
communicate, is like our brain just hears the tone of the music
Okay.
and then we correlate the emotion to that. So it could, because they did a study on that where they had a song that had like the lyrics had some sort of actual tangible context to it that made sense, and then they took that same song or the same, you know, music, the instrumental behind it, and then they put just chaotic words on it that didn't make any sense, and people's brains responded the same way
Oh, interesting.
because it's just the way that you hear the tones and how the tones like intercorrelate in your brain. That's also what they're saying, like a one-hit wonder is why those are popular, is you will typically never have a song that's a one-hit wonder. Everybody remembers it if it's a sad song, like if it's a sad tone.
Gotcha.
Like it's not because the lyrics were catchy or cool or fun. It was like it instilled this upbeat, happy emotion.
Well, that makes me feel better about
The way that we're hearing music.
yeah.
Nowadays.
Hardcore rap music and, you know, bad stuff, or even just like country music that's just about drinking and, you know, having sex and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, hey kids, listen to this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm sure it doesn't.
I'm an old man.
I'm sure it doesn't help. Because I bet there is not so much of a connection to how it makes the kids feel. Like a happy beat will make them feel happy, and a sad beat will make them feel sad. But they're still hearing those words and in a context
Yeah.
of, oh, well, this person that I like is saying these words, so that thing must be cool.
Well, and now it's got me thinking how much music is just a scam. Like, if it's so much not about the lyrics or about the artist who's singing it, this is all scam.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need you.
Well, that's
We
actually.
don't need you, Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Like, you're just which is also somewhat true of, like, you're just another artist that's going to come and go. Like, there's going to be a new one, and then they're going to be the next best thing, and it's just going to continue to happen.
Yeah. I think that's why people back in the day, why they were so influential, was because of the whole package that they were. Like, you think of Michael Jackson.
Oh, see, I think
His music was incredible, and you take him out of it, it's still incredible. But it was his whole persona that was,
Yeah, well, he was an entertainer.
yeah.
Like, his was entertainment. I think you take somebody that isn't entertainment like that, I think the big people are just the ones who invoke the most emotion.
Yeah.
Like, how are you able to strike that chord? Like, if you're not able to do that, you're probably not going to be one of the big names.
Well, okay, so take that though. Like, take a Billie Eilish compared to Katy Perry. Katy
Yeah.
Perry with what you hear on the radio.
Yeah.
Billie Eilish, the way that she is singing to where she is still producing the tone that we're talking about. To where Katy Perry is just saying sounds.
Yeah, it's
Over
just
music.
nonsense lyrics to upbeat music.
To where Billie Eilish could sing words that are not real. She could be just saying sounds, but in the cadence of her songs. She is, like, her voice is creating the music. Katy Perry is just
Yeah.
talking over music.
Yeah.
So I think that's where you can also have you still have a benefit or you don't.
Yeah. What else you got?
I thought it was interesting learning about the because I always question this with listening to music while you're like working or trying to learn something.
Mm.
Like, because I was in school. Some people are like, yeah, I do my homework with listening to music. I'm like, how? I could not focus on doing that. And there is a category of person that can do that. And some of that might be correlated with what they were experiencing in their development stage.
See, these are my favorite.
But it's very, very rare to even still be. Because, okay, so here's
and
how,
you
like.
know how many people are going to claim that they're that person?
I know. So here's, like, basically the categories
Not
of
you.
where kind of like you can do it, but top benefit to not really any benefit. You are going to benefit the most and benefit in the way of you're going to be able to gather more information, be able to like read through different information, be able to retain it, be able to take action on it, and then to be able to replicate. You will be able to do that the best with no music on, silence, with no extra sounds. That's top. Second tier would be doing that, but with some sort of white noise or brown noise, or what do they call it? It's like a specific beat. It's like 40 beats per second, but there's a certain
I have no clue.
binaural
I don't know.
binaural beats. It's like a certain RPM that
Sounds like
connects
a
with like
bad
a
hip hop artist.
pendulum basically sound. That would be second tier. The third tier of least helpful would be listening to music that has lyrics, but it's just kind of random music. And then the worst thing that you can do is listening to music with no lyrics, like just instrumental. Then it's listening to music with lyrics, and then the worst thing that you can do is listening to music with lyrics that you like. Because you're basically running two tracks in your head. Like, your brain is still trying to absorb the information from the song, and if you also know the lyrics,
Just trying to piece it together.
it's playing the lyrics in your head, and you're almost thinking about what's coming next in the song, or you know what maybe song comes after this song, or whatever. That you're trying to do that and pick up new information at the same time. So it's like you're trying to read two books at once.
Yeah.
Or you're trying to read, this would, in school, teachers, what were they doing? When they would have you read and then they're talking to you,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of the same thing. It'd be like you reading and someone also trying to teach you verbally at the same time.
Yeah.
You maybe are going to pick up on some stuff which makes people think that they can do it,
Yep.
but your efficiency goes down dramatically.
What is so wrong with being common? People just want to be unique so badly.
I think it's a
wanna be
unique thing.
rare.
I think it is a unique thing. For this, I think it's just more people want to listen to music, so they want to make it seem like it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's boring to just be silent and learn.
But it's like the people
It's like,
that
do you want to get it done, or?
But it's like the people that are like, yeah, I only need, 6 hours of sleep. No, you don't.
Yeah.
It's like they don't want to just sleep 6 hours. Like, I bet they want to sleep more. But they probably can't for some reason. Like,
I wonder how much of that though is an excuse. Like,
oh, sure.
I have to sleep only 6 hours because of my schedule and my job, so I'm just gonna say that I can do that and it's fine for me. I'm only
Right.
someone that sleeps 6 hours. Same way, like when I'm doing work, I'd really like to watch a podcast while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But I know, yeah, but it's gonna take me double the time. It's
Yeah,
so silly when
But
I'm.
hold on, but except for ours. Ours, you'll get double the amount of work done while you're listening to it.
Well, I'm gonna be a good person of society and say do one or the other. And I would say, depending on what you're trying to do, if you're trying to learn, hey, we got it all wrapped up into one. You don't need to do any learning. Just listen to us and just retain it. We will do the learning and then give it to you. But yeah, I do notice in my own work, like the efficiency level is kind of stupid.
Oh, sure. Like how
Like
much
when
you're able
I'm
to get done.
Yeah, like when I'm watching a podcast or listening to music, it's so say if I'm answering an email, it's almost like my short-term memory gets so bad because I am listening or I'm taking that microsecond to listen to the podcast, but then I'm coming right back. But that microsecond that I disconnected, I almost need to like re-remember what I was doing in the email.
Yeah, because you
It's
weren't
like,
fully present.
so then how many times are you doing that within a minute or a 5-minute or a 10-minute span? I was like, you just took half of the time when you could just get that done quicker and then go fully watch the podcast.
Well, it's that like funny thing when somebody's texting somebody and you're talking to them about something else, and then they're like, "Oh my god, I just like wrote down what you said." Like you just said chocolate, and I just wrote down chocolate.
Oh, yes.
It's like, yeah, because you're trying to do both at the same time. Like you're picking some up from them and some up from whatever you're messaging or doing at the time. But it's like neither are efficient. You're not fully listening to who's talking, and then you're not fully engaged with what you're trying to say, you know, in the text message. It's the same with work.
I also thought it was interesting that they have this study because just I think it's so cool that again someone took the time and the money to do it, but they figured out with altering your emotions, so going from a whatever emotion to happy, they have narrowed it down for it to be you have to listen to the music for 9 minutes. Listen to happy music for 9 minutes, 9 to 10 minutes.
That's funny.
And so it's like 2 songs. You listen to 2 happy songs, your mood will level up. Like they have tested that in people.
Yeah, that's weird.
And then,
I don't feel like that would always work.
no, maybe not, but
Like I'm sure it's like generally speaking.
sure.
I
But
don't think
how
it's
much
like,
of that is also
I don't think it's like it's a crazy trick. Try it, and it works every time. It's like, oh yeah, your dad died. Just listen to 2 songs, and you'll be happy.
well, but that's a whole different thing. This is just if you're going to whatever and you want to get happy, then you do the 9 minutes. If you're sad and you're trying to that's like what you were talking about, the processing it.
Yeah.
Different protocol. Then you listen to sad music for 13 minutes.
It's like I get it, but like it can't be that definitive.
No, it's not definitive. I think it's cool that they have figured out like that is the average number.
Yes, like that would still do it.
And
but
going into it maybe with the potential placebo of like,
oh yeah,
you know what? I'm just going to do like 2 songs. After 2 songs, we're gonna be rocking and rolling. Or 13 minutes, my drive to work, we're gonna process that shit that happened, and I'm gonna feel better about it, or I'm gonna feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
That I think is pretty cool.
What? How much more do you have of that of other stuff? Because like I want to know what the kids stuff.
Oh, we can move on to that. I don't really. What about it?
Well, just you had kind of why you wanted to talk about this. I felt like was because of how beneficial it is for kids, and I feel like we've said that it is, but not gone into a ton of detail about maybe why or how.
I don't have as much scientific. Well, I guess I kind of do. Like, it's the same thing for adults of why music is good for kids in development.
Well, of course.
But it's a lot. It's a lot of just what I've personally experienced.
Oh,
I guess.
Okay.
But so like, kids listen or kids can process tones more than they can process chunked up words.
Oh, and think about already cutting you off, but And think about how often parents are talking to their kids in a tone that doesn't make sense with what words they're saying. You know what I mean? It's the same thing you do with a significant other where it's like, "Are you mad at me?" Like the way you're saying that is very tone like. It has a tone to it.
Sure.
That's like parents are always doing that to kids, that they're picking up on the tone, but then they're hearing the words that they're saying and it may not go with what the tone is. And then it's like,
Yeah.
well, now I don't know what to believe. To our music, it's almost always, synced up. The tone in the words or the
Yep.
tone is the message of what's going on. So
Yep.
it's like all they have to do is pay attention to the tone. They don't have to pay attention to what the
Yep.
words really are.
Yep. Well, that's one thing I stopped doing with teaching was if I'm going to discipline a kid, I am not going to do it in my happy Courtney voice. Because
Yeah,
again,
no.
that's so confusing to them.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, so
exactly
do
what I'm
you
talking
not
about.
like what I'm doing or do you? Because you just welcomed me into class with that same tone, but now you're telling me to stop running around? To stop running around with the same tone?
Which
Like,
I think is so funny when when I'm in there, is I'm not a happy voice with,
anyone?
anybody. It's like, hey, we're gonna keep doing this. Like, we'll just run in a circle the whole time. I don't care.
Yeah.
And then they're all like, oh, okay.
But I think that's great. Like, you're teaching them
I'm not trying, but
words
now
and
that there's
yeah.
evidence to it, it's like,
Well,
yeah,
it's-
you should talk in the tone that is what you're trying to portray.
Yeah, because think about a dog. You're not
we
gonna
go.
go like, no, don't go on the couch. You're gonna go,
Well,
no.
you kind of are.
Well, maybe you
Some
shouldn't.
do.
Okay, don't do that anymore, people.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop talking to your dog like that. Stop
Yeah.
talking to your kids like that. Like, if I am going to correct a kid, I'm gonna be direct with my tone and I'm gonna be simple. I'm not gonna go into, can you please sit on the waiting mat? Okay, come over, sit on the waiting mat. Come on, you gotta come over, sit on the I go, I need you to go sit at the waiting mat. Silence.
Yeah.
I don't say anything else. They don't do it. I walk over to them. I grab them, or like grab their hand or grab their arm. I'm like, okay, we need to sit at the waiting mat. And I will stay in that low tone, simple words, direct, leave a lot of silence in between. Because there's also kids process at a certain speed. If I keep spitting out words at them, it's just like,
Yeah.
even though I'm saying somewhat of the same thing of like, okay, put your dots in a pile. Oh, okay, grab your dots, put your dots in a pile. It's like, say it once, let them process what you said. What's the action? What do I need to do? Okay, I'm doing the action. I even need to figure out how the action needs to be done. It's like they are 1.5, 2 years old. They aren't going that fast. The same way then with the music.
They're an iPhone too. Like, they don't do things fast. You type in the Google search bar, frickin' Samuel Jackson movies, it's gonna take a while
Yeah.
to come up.
Yeah.
They don't know.
No, that's the same thing. So then with music is with the discipline and certain directions, I will say them in 2 phrases and then pause. Certain directions that I will use every single class that is related to a transition or an action that we are going to do every single time, or it involves an item, or it involves something that they're going to be replicating in like a habit loop. That's where I do the stupid songs that you don't like.
Yeah.
Because then, and it's even how you sing it, that it's going to relate to them. Now that's where with any adult that's going to hear it, they'll be like, okay,
It
well,
doesn't
this
relate.
is trash.
Yeah.
But it's like my Meet Me at My Waiting Mat song. I'm keeping it up here in the same tone. I can repeat that same cadence and just switch the words.
Yeah.
Meet me in a circle. Meet me at the waiting mat. Line up at the front door. And then always end it in a down regulating tone. It's like, and then sit down, to where I want the action of my voice to then also replicate into how we are moving into the next thing. So if I'm ending up here and then I'm having them heightened,
Yeah.
now they're going to be up here, then listening to the following direction. To where I want them to be here, settled, out of the tantrum mode in a balanced, neutral. Now we're transitioning into the next thing.
Yeah.
And then that's where I go into the simple words and cut it short. But the musicality of it and being able to like hear tones and melodies and where I can do that every single time is I'll start with meet me and they'll already start going to the mat. Like they will start picking up with, oh, like the cleanup song. Clean up,
Yeah.
clean. It's like they will just automatically connect this sound means this action. And for the waiting mat, this sound means this action at this location with these people.
Yeah.
And then through that, you're creating that habit that you can kind of do that with anything.
Yeah.
Like I've seen parents that do that with brushing their teeth. Or like their whole bedtime routine is to a song.
Well, and that was one of the things I had read about music as well with exercise, is people that listen to music tend to, while they exercise, tend to like stick with exercising more than people who don't listen to
Sure.
anything. And it's because it just turns into like a ritual and a habit and something that you can rely on and enjoy and have with the thing that maybe you don't enjoy. But it's like it's just the creating habits thing again.
Well, and it's something very simple of you're connecting an activity with a positive feeling. So
Yeah.
the music probably makes you feel happy and joyful. So then the activity that you're doing makes you feel happy and joyful.
Yeah.
So like the stupid waiting mat song, realistically, the kids don't want to go sit down on a mat and wait for their turn. But yet every single time we start singing, they're like, and they run to the waiting mat.
Yeah.
It's like,
Just because they know it. It's
because they
familiar.
know it, they know what to do, so that makes them feel responsible, and they have
Yeah.
some sort of like autonomy with that. But it's kids like structure, and they like it to be the exact same.
Yep.
Ki-
Same movies.
Kids aren't. That is where
same
like kids
everything.
are not like adults. Which I guess some adults are like this, but
I'm like this.
like they want every day. At least I think in like my classes, they want no surprises. The classes that run the smoothest are the most boring ones for me, because I'm like, we have done this same class over and over again. We've done it in the same order. We've done it with using the same freaking props or whatever. And every time, it's like the more that we do it every week, they love it more and more, because
Yeah.
it's like a song that you know. It's way more fun to sing a song that you know every single lyric by heart,
Yeah.
because
yeah.
like you're able to get into it. So they're able to get into class or whatever thing that they're doing at home just because like there's a system that they can do it without anybody's help.
Yeah.
So same thing with the music of that. It's not only creating the patterns of like what you're specifically doing, but how do I describe it? Like it's unconsciously developing their brain because of what we talked about of
Yeah.
what parts of your brain start to fire. This is also where with the kids, like from ages 0 to 3, their brain is like almost triple timing it compared to adults. So like
Like a sponge just soaking every.
it's not even like a sponge. Like their brain is like developing all of its neurons at that time,
Oh.
and like the dendrites or like the connections of the neurons are all happening from 0 to 3. So
So the
by
more that.
listening to music where you're working with the corpus callosum, like the connection point, you're almost like giving protein to
Well, yeah.
to
I
the
mean, it's,
muscles that are developing. Like you're feeding into the neurons that are already being created. So their brains feed off of the music, and they feed off of the structure, and they feed off of all these things that they can do by themselves. So then in turn, their brain is developing stronger and faster at a time where like their brain is like, give me more, give me more.
yeah. I mean, it's the thing we talked about of it's activating most of your brain, and now you're just talking about that in a 0 to 3-year-old,
Mhm.
it's like the more brain activation that they can get as far as like in this context, the better it's going to be. And it's like
Mhm.
you can choose to either have that in their life or not have that in their life. And it's like,
Yeah.
I think you had brought up to me like some sort of research showing kids that listen to music, you know, at a young age, and their IQ or something when they get to
Oh
high school or
yeah.
whatever it was. It was something along the lines of that, of like listening to music, and those kids that listen to music when they're younger tend to be smarter, basically, was the result of it.
And it's not even in the ways that you would think. Like it's not, oh, they're more creative. It's like mathematically typically they are stronger, and in the language arts they're
Mm.
stronger. With the language arts makes sense because it's a direct correlation to what parts of their brains are firing as what is connected to our language skills.
Well,
But
math does. Like
it's
or music is just math, and
yeah,
it's just systems.
and that's where kids that not only listen to music but they play an instrument,
Yeah.
because kids that understand music theory, that is just algorithms. And even that, like, again, going back to the little kids thing, like,
Maybe it was that. The research was kids who played an instrument. It wasn't kids who listened to music. It was kids who played instruments, I believe.
yes, kids who play instruments are like through the roof
Yeah.
in those things. But I think where the listening to music could also be true is just, again, talking about that you're in that phase. I think it's the sensory motor phase where like everything, your brain is developing off of the senses.
Yeah.
So the more that they can hear things, the more that they can feel things visually. Like I teach a mommy and me class, and I tell them, like, even if they're too scared to do the actual moves with me, the fact that they are hearing the music, hearing me sing, and seeing me do it, they're getting almost just as much. Like, yes, obviously them physically doing it, because then they're getting the motor skills as well, but the aspects of where their brains are searching for information right now, them connecting the seeing it and hearing my tone of voice and doing that, or like when we do the obstacle course, and this is only for that age group, but the moms always want to like control what they're doing, and I'm like, they are just figuring it out and exploring it. So if I have dots on the ground and there's one girl that she always wants to go and pick up the dot and like look underneath it, and the mom's just like, no, put it back, put it down. And I'm like, she's learning by doing that, because she's oh, low battery. Okay, so good.
We should probably wrap it up soon anyways.
Okay. She's like, that is how she is learning, is
Yeah.
because she's figuring out, like, well, what's underneath it? What does the shape mean? How does it, like, she's putting the dot on top of another dot. What does that do? That anything with sensory is what's going to activate their brain with that. But kids that learn how to play an instrument, they typically skyrocket in later development as far as like actual
Well, it's just
tangible intelligence goes.
and it's just more advanced. It's just like taking those same principles but having it be a little bit more of a complicated thing that they're learning.
Well, and that even happens with babies. Like, that's another study that they did that I'm surprised that they did, was certain rhythms will develop them differently. Like, some rhythms with every baby, they would just move their torso. Another rhythm, they would just move their arms. And then another rhythm, it would be their torso and their arms. So, like, even what their brain is signaling to what motor skills are different. So where that's why you also want to give like a vast catalog of music, because even like their physical abilities could be adjusted and elevated because of music.
Yeah.
Like athletes, like their ability to make connection points from their brain to then their physical action.
Yeah. So, substitute a
A book for a song.
of watching TV every single night and just like listen to music that night. You
Yeah.
know? find ways to put it in there. Like, I don't know, it became increasingly more important to me as I was reading through stuff. I'm like, this seems like a weird superpower tool thing that you could have and utilize, and like you're just not. It's like, so start incorporating it.
Yeah.
All right.
Look out for the fun guests.
Yeah. Yep. All right. See you later.